Yesterday is directed by Danny Boyle and stars Himesh Patel as Jack Malik, who is a regular run-of-the-mill guy. He's a struggling singer-songwriter until, and bear with me on this one, he gets hit by a bus during a global blackout that then causes everybody but him to forget who the Beatles are. So now everyone's forgotten about the Beatles, like most people who had forgotten about this thing. He uses it to his advantage. Now, I said during my Billie Eilish video that I am a huge music fan. It was my first love before movies. So obviously, being a music fan, I'm a huge Beatles fan. So you can kind of tell what drew me to this movie. Oh yeah, and another contributing factor to that is this was written by Richard Curtis. That's right, the guy who wrote Love Actually and these ditties. This does also let you know what this movie is going to be like when it's written by a guy like Richard Curtis, who is pretty much known as like the English king of romance and romantic comedies. Now, I will say from the get-go, this isn't necessarily what people might think it is. It's not necessarily a love letter to the Beatles. Yes, the entire thing is drawn from the Beatles, but there's also little things like Coca-Cola no longer exists, nor do Oasis. So there's certain other things, but this is definitely a tribute to the Beatles, but not in your sort of classic way. I'd say this is more of a rom-com, Richard Curtis, with some Beatles elements thrown in. This is also why I threw in the name Richard Curtis a few times in the start of this review. Yes, we all love Richard Curtis. I am English, therefore Richard Curtis is what I've grown up with. Things like Love Actually and the other movies that I put on the screen earlier. But because of that, it does fall into the Richard Curtis tropes way too easily. Which is fine, don't get me wrong, we all love Richard Curtis, but this very much does feel to me, in 2019, like a 2001 Richard Curtis movie. It's very generic in its comedy. I didn't laugh. There was people in the theatre with me that were laughing, but they were a bit older than me. They were in their late 30s, early 40s, so they were laughing, I think, because it's where the cue is. And there's a couple of parts in the movie where they just go quiet because they think that's where the laugh is going to be, where, if I'm honest with you, I was just not that bothered. He's been telling these jokes now with, you know, people like Hugh Grant for the last 20 years. It really didn't bother me all that much, if I'm completely honest with you. Didn't find it was chuckle funny, but in no way was it burst out like he used to have. I think he's fallen into the same tropes, but he's 10 years behind, and I can't really, it didn't really fly for me. But also it's directed by the insane Danny Boyle. I love him. The two of them working together makes it, annoyingly, Richard Curtis and Danny Boyle make this thing stupidly charming, stupidly entertaining. You throw Beatles songs in there, you can't lose. They're obviously one of the biggest bands of all time. Yeah, there's some really silly moments where they have an old John Lennon in it, and, you know, some of the jokes just don't work. Yeah, it falls into the old category, but it is a feel-good summer film that, you know, will make you smile because all these songs are just heaped in nostalgia. So you can't really go wrong with watching it. I would thoroughly recommend it. If you're a Beatles fan, obviously, and if you love Richard Curtis, watch it anyway. You may fall in love with some Beatles tracks. I've been listening to them again since I watched the movie. Hell, I put them on my iPod as soon as I got back in the car. So it works, definitely works, and Himesh Patel really sings these songs great. I mean, I don't know him. I went on IMDb and found out he was in EastEnders. I don't watch that shit, so to watch him, he was relatively unknown for me, and he was excellent. Lily James, of course, gorgeous and brilliant with her voice, and is an amazing actress. Can't go wrong. The cast is great, it's charming, it just feels a bit old, but go and watch it. Guys, with all of this being said, I'm going to give Yesterday a 3 out of 5. So there you have it, guys. There's my take on Yesterday. Now, if you have seen the movie, then please troll me down in the comments down below. I'd love to know what you thought about the movie. If you're a fan of the Beatles, please let me know, and if you have a favourite band, let me know as well. I'd love to discuss it, and I'd love to discuss the movie. I really do think it's a feel-good summer hit. Now, before I go, guys, I must apologise. I've been off for 2.5 weeks. I know I don't release videos really as frequently anymore, but I got married, so I've been away doing that. I will be back. I'm watching Spider-Man Far From Home tonight, so I will get that up. I will start uploading more consistently, I swear. I will be going to see Toy Story 4, sorry, all the things that I missed. I will be going to catch up with them. But guys, until next time, this is your friendly neighbourhood ginger guy saying, Ginge out.